If Baki Hanma existed in real life, how would he have to train, eat, and recover in order to perform and look like he does in the anime and manga? I'm Paris Demers, a personal trainer with over a decade of experience in the health and fitness world, and today we're going to be answering that question, and then I'm going to be giving you your very own Baki Building Workout Program that you can follow so you can build the Baki body of your dreams. And yes, you heard me right. In this video, we're not bodybuilders, we're Baki builders. Now, Baki the Grappler is so much more than just a grappler. He is an insanely jacked MMA master, one who as a mere teenager has been able to defeat a massive gorilla in one-on-one combat, take on and beat the anime version of the Liver King, and he was even able to master the legendary art of PP training. Baki is a force of nature, and I knew that if we were going to figure out how someone in real life could get even close to Baki's level of performance, I was going to have to spend a lot of time doing some serious research into what makes Baki Baki. So I spent hours poring over the Baki anime and manga. I dove deep into the world of professional fighting. And of course, I spent night after night watching the masters of PP training practice their craft.
So I'm coming day and night.
And after all that extensive research, I've ascertained Baki's three most defining physical attributes. Three aspects of his performance that a real-life Baki would have to heavily focus on developing through his diet, training, and recovery. But why just three? Well, the issue with trying to become a real-life Baki is that while Baki in the anime is ostensibly a normal child, albeit with insane genetics, his abilities are clearly superhuman. He's pretty much like if you took Captain America, gave him a second dose of the superhero serum, and then put him on the Liver King's $15,000 a month steroid stack. Did this guy really just make 2 Liver King jokes in one video? Ha! Damn right I did, and there's nothing you can do about it. So Baki in the anime pretty much has maxed out physical stats in every single aspect of human performance. His power, strength, speed, muscle mass, and endurance are all off the charts. But in real life, when you max out one aspect of human performance, it typically comes at the expense of a couple other aspects. Like if you train to become the best bodybuilder, your body will undergo adaptations that'll make you a worse long distance runner. And if you train to become a better long distance runner, you'll become a worse powerlifter because more of your type 2X muscle fibers will be converted into type 2A muscle fibers. And if you train to become a better powerlifter, you'll become worse at being alive. Because it turns out years of just sitting around eating Doritos during your 3-hour training sessions where you only have to do 8 total reps and not doing even a little bit of cardio makes you really good at having a heart attack before 40. I'm just playing powerlifters, I love you guys. Okay, you get the point. You can't physically be the best at everything. So that's why I had to figure out what 3 aspects of human performance are the most integral to the character of Baki Hanma. And this is what I came up with. First, Baki heavily relies on his speed and maneuverability to blitz his opponents and quickly finish them off with a devastatingly powerful strike or by grappling them into submission. And of course, Baki wouldn't be Baki without his insane physique and that legendary demon back. And finally, we can't talk about Baki without talking about his incredibly impressive high kicks that require an insane amount of mobility and control to pull off. When you boil him down, Baki is essentially a lightning fast mixed martial arts master and the body of an IFBB pro bodybuilder. So naturally, for someone to be a real life Baki, they would need to heavily focus on training their power/speed, their flexibility, and of course, they would need to build a ton of muscle mass and then get super lean to get that amazing physique. Now in the anime, Baki became the world's strongest teenager by hiking, benching, kicking trees, trying to unalive himself off a cliff, teaching the local wildlife who's daddy, and of course, by laying that pipe, son, let's go! Anyways, as fun as it would be to try, unfortunately following Baki's training plan from the anime in real life would not yield the same kind of results as it does in the anime. That being said, if you want to see me make a video where I try out all of Baki's different training techniques from the anime in real life, leave a like, subscribe, and comment Baki training down below. There's nothing I won't do for my loyal YouTube viewers. So since we can't look at Baki's anime training to guide us, we'll have to look at how real life combat sport athletes train to develop their incredible athleticism, and then combine that with aspects of how bodybuilders train to sculpt their incredible bodies, so that we can create a multi-phase Baki building program. So let's start off with the muscle building part of this program. Baki has a classic bodybuilder Dorito looking physique and V-taper, with super wide shoulders and a teeny waist. Of course, how wide your shoulders are relative to your waist is mostly determined by your bone structure, which is of course genetic and cannot be changed. Unless of course your name is Jack Hanma, in which case, for better or for worse, you can change your body however you want. But for us normal people, you can still develop certain muscles like your lats to give you the illusion that your waist is smaller than it actually is, and you can build your lateral delts to give your shoulders a wider look. So there are things you can do to build the Baki physique, even if you weren't born with the perfect bone structure for it. Now, speaking of delts, Bakis are insane. Well, pretty much his whole physique is insane, but the muscles that really stand out are his shoulders, chest, arms, quads, and of course, that hellish back he's famous for. So all of these muscle groups will have to be the focus of the bodybuilding portion of the Baki building plan. But how does one actually build muscle? Well, without getting too deep into the science of muscle hypertrophy, aka muscle growth, anyone who wants to focus on building a lot of muscle will want to follow a program that has them doing a lot of big compound movements, which will be complemented by smaller isolation movements. They'll want to perform these movements in the 6 to 30 rep range at a high intensity, making sure that they're consistently training close to failure and that they're applying progressive overload to their training by slowly increasing the difficulty of their workouts over time. They'll also want to make sure that they're performing their movements with a controlled tempo and that they're getting a good stretch and a peak contraction with every movement. In terms of volume, you'll want to do between 10 to 20 hard sets per muscle group in order to have them grow. Now that covers the training portion of muscle building, but of course you won't be building any muscle without the proper fuel. So you're gonna have to be like Baki and chow the hell down if you want to get built up like him. But of course you can't just eat whatever you want in any quantity and expect to look like Baki. So if you really want to get as close to Baki's physique as possible, you're gonna have to track your nutrition. So to make that easy, I suggest that you use MacroFactor. MacroFactor is the most advanced macro and calorie tracker on the market. It works by asking you a short series of questions and then creates you a personalized nutrition plan by using its science-backed algorithm. And the best part is that as you follow this plan, it'll consistently be updated by the app depending on how quickly your weight is changing, so that you don't hit any major plateaus or slowdowns with your results. So if you really want to look like Baki, go ahead and click the link in the description of this video to download MacroFactor, and then use affiliate code DEMERCE to get 2 weeks free to try it out. Okay, so now of course, there is a lot more to bodybuilding than just this, but these are the most important things that we're going to be incorporating into the bodybuilding portion of our Baki building program that we'll be putting together at the end of the video. Now let's look at the performance side of Baki's training plan. To develop the insane amount of power that Baki puts behind all his strikes and grappling takedowns, a real-life Baki would have to perform both conventional sagittal plane plyometric movements like power cleans, snatches, and kettlebell swings, along with rotational power movements like lateral med ball throws and landmine rotations. These movements would be performed in a lower rep range of 1 to 6, with a focus on being as explosive as possible. So these movements will do a lot to increase the raw amount of power a real-life Baki's body is capable of producing, but he would still need to spend a lot of time actually practicing his striking and takedowns, as the amount of power an athlete can output during a specific movement is largely dependent on how familiar that athlete is with performing that movement. So he would need to practice. Now, to increase his speed and maneuverability, a real-life Baki would want to incorporate on-foot sprinting and change of direction drills, as this work would be crucial to develop his abilities to blitz his opponent while also avoiding incoming attacks. Okay, this is starting to look like a lot to fit into one plan, and I haven't even gotten to the flexibility portion of the Baki building program. Luckily, I have a special technique up my sleeve that when used properly can drastically increase your flexibility, increase strength, build muscle, improve sprinting performance, and increase one's resilience to injury all at the same time. And the best thing is, you get all of this without having to add 20 minutes of stretching to the end of every workout, which, let's be honest, most of us would just end up skipping half the time anyways. And this special technique is called eccentric training. The eccentric in eccentric training is referring to the portion of any lift where your muscles are lengthening, or you could say stretching under tension. So think about the part of a bicep curl or a deadlift when you're bringing the weight down and lengthening the main muscles being used in the movement to do so. So of course, you're already doing eccentrics every time you lift, but with eccentric specific training, you'll be going more slowly through the lowering phase of the movement so that you can really feel a good stretch at the end range. And then once you've reached the end range of motion, you'll pause for 2 to 3 seconds while maintaining your tension, bracing, and while making sure to breathe so you can really feel that stretch. Now, eccentric training should be done with only moderate loads, as super heavy weights could lead to injury, and you shouldn't try to make the stretch as intense as possible. You want to go for like a 6 out of 10 kind of stretch. So what does this have to do with improving a real-life Baki's mobility so we can kick some heads? Well, recent research has found that weight training with a specific focus on the eccentric phase of movements has a ton of great flexibility and injury prevention benefits that regular stretching just doesn't give you. See, regular stretching doesn't actually increase your flexibility by increasing the length of your muscles. Instead, it works by increasing your nervous system's tolerance to your muscles being in a more extended position. This means that they can be stretched further without firing off pain signals. So what this means is that with regular stretching, there's no real change occurring within the muscle or tendons themselves. And given that, you won't be surprised to hear there's very limited scientific evidence supporting regular stretching's ability to prevent injury or reduce the risk of injury reoccurrence. Eccentric training, on the other hand, has been shown to not only increase flexibility, but also decrease your risk of injury and improve performance. And this is because of something called sarcomerogenesis. This is when you actually build new sarcomeres, aka muscle cells, on either side of your muscle fascicules. This occurs because of how your body adapts to the eccentric training, where you're repeatedly overstretching your muscular structures. Your body responds to this stress by reconstructing and adding new sarcomeres at the end of your muscles in order to avoid future traumas of the muscle within this new range of motion that you're using. So eccentric training increases your flexibility by literally making your muscles longer. Referred to as a longer muscle fascial length, was also associated with greater 100-meter sprint performance in the study done from the 2000s. So eccentric training gets you stronger, prevents injury, increases performance, and it doesn't take up a ton of time in your workout. So clearly, this is the best choice of flexibility work for the Baki Building Program. And then once our real-life Baki has used the eccentric training to increase his flexibility, he'll learn how to use and control this new joint range of motion through his fight skill training. Okay, now that we have all the parts of our Baki Building Program, it's time to put it all together. Because of the fact that our real life Baki is going to have to be highly adept in each of these aspects of human performance, we won't just be able to shove everything into a single program, as that would just be pulling the body in too many directions at one time. So instead, we'll be using a programming technique used heavily in the world of athletics called periodization. To keep it simple, this just means that we'll have different phases of training where we'll focus on developing different aspects of human performance. For our Baki Building Program, we're just going to have two phases, the muscle building phase and the athletic performance phase. Each of these phases will be 6 weeks in length, and our real life Baki would cycle back and forth between them, completing 6 weeks of one and then doing a 1 week deload where he cuts the total volume and intensity of his training in half to allow his body to take full advantage of supercompensation and recover more fully from his training before getting back into the next phase. First, for the bodybuilding phase, it'll be a 6-day-a-week training split, with 4 of those days being an upper-lower bodybuilding routine, and the 2 other days would be reserved for fight training, so that our real-life Baki can maintain and improve his fighting skills even while working on his physique. Now, if you're wondering what each specific workout would look like, I'll be giving you a fully detailed program at the end of the video. Next, for the athletic performance phase, it'll also be a 6-day-a-week split with 3 full body athletic training days in the gym and then 4 fight training days a week. Obviously, that equals 7 total workouts in 6 days. So one of the training days will include 2 training sessions, with the weight training being in the morning and then the fight training being in the evening. I've made sure that there'll be enough weight training volume in this part of the program to maintain the muscle mass that was built during the bodybuilding phase, because Baki wouldn't be Baki without all those juicy muscles. Now I've created a fully detailed version of this program that you can follow yourself, and it's totally free. You just need to follow the link in the description to grab it. I've made a couple of changes to the program structure so that it's easier for you guys to follow, but it's still a very advanced program, so if you're newer to fitness, I would advise that you check out my at-home training program first, hit that, and then build your way up to the Baki Building Program. The link to that is also in the description. And remember, if you want to see really amazing results, you need to be tracking your diet. So go check out Macro Factor and use affiliate code DEMERCE for 2 weeks free. If you like the video, then I know you'll love my video on why Baki's training methodology will make you rich and successful. So click on that and I'll see you there.